Warning, this podcast contains themes of extreme violence and murder. Subject matter may be offensive to some listeners. Discretion advised.
Welcome to another episode of Evil Transgression, your homicide headquarters here in podcasting. I'm Josh, and with me as always, Dustin and Rex.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on?
We, first and foremost, we want to let everybody know that this episode is brought to you by the patrons, Ashley Matson, Jason Bowe, James Stott, Abriel Schoenover, and Tiffany Manning.
Oh, thank
Hopefully
you.
I didn't annihilate any of those names.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Well, you're the one that told me how to say them.
Let us know if you did.
Let Josh know.
Again, Dustin told me how to say it.
How to pronounce them.
That's what I get for listening to Dustin.
Yeah, it usually
whatever.
backfires.
But no, thanks to those.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And if you are interested in joining our Patreon, please click the link in our description of this episode, and it's also in our links. But we'll get back to that at the end of this episode.
Sounds good.
Now, this episode is a good one.
Oh,
Yeah, surprise.
No way.
Surprise.
We've never had a good one.
Yeah, I've never said that. But hey, you know how I know it's a good one?
Because you said it.
Nope. Because a fella by the name of Rob recommended this guy to
Hooked us up again.
Rob comes through
Constantly.
yeah, and always hits home runs.
Oh, definitely.
Thanks, Rob.
I know if Rob sends us an email like, hey, check this guy out,
It's going to be a good one.
I know it's going to be a good one. So once again, Rob, thanks, buddy. So are you guys ready to hear what this one's all about?
Let's do it.
I am, but it sounds like you're dealing with a sore throat today.
Nah, I got a little bit of sinus issues.
Oh, I thought maybe I gave you that Rona I had a couple weeks ago.
Let's hope not.
Right.
Y'all will quit playing touch, but this wouldn't happen.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
Yep. Let's do it.
Buckle up, evil mob, as we discuss Gordon Frederick Cummins. Gordon Frederick Cummins was born on February 18th, 1914 in New Earswick, North Yorkshire. So we're across the pond again, fellas.
Nice.
He was the first of three children of John and Amelia Cummins. John Cummins ran a school for delinquent youths, and Mother Amelia was a stay-at-home mother. Gordon was lucky enough to go to a private school, however. He wasn't a very good student, though, and was known to be more of a distraction in class than anything. Which is odd if your father runs a school for delinquent youths. You think you'd be a little more well-behaved.
Right.
Gordon Cummins graduated in 1930 and attended Northampton College of Technology, but stopped attending in 1932. After leaving college, Gordon moved to Newcastle and got a job as an industrial chemist, but was fired after 5 short months. 4 months after that, Cummins got a job as a tanner, but was also fired from that job a little over a year later.
Like a hide tanner?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So not like a spray tanner.
I don't think they were spray tanning
Dustin was
in
getting punked.
1932, but
That's Dustin's lifelong dream.
Shut up.
I mean, what we're getting out of this so far is, you started college but didn't go all the way through it. You got a job and got fired 5 months later. Then you got another job 4 months later, and then got fired a little over a year later.
Well, and they don't relate at all. They're like completely different fields.
Yeah. And he's not a very good worker, apparently.
No.
So his job search would eventually lead him to London in October of 1934 as he got a job working in a clothing factory.
Switching again.
Yep.
I mean, I guess like a tanner and somebody in a clothing factory would be close. Still a pretty far stretch, but
Yeah.
London was quite the change for Gordon Cummins because he became fascinated with the lifestyle of the rich. You ever done that?
No.
Lifestyles of the rich and famous?
Oh, I used to watch that.
You're a liar. You never sat back and thought, man, I sure wish I had a yacht.
I mean, who hasn't?
Well, this guy takes it a little too far. Gordon pretended to be the relative of a rich and powerful person so he could be accepted by the aristocrats of London. He even began speaking with a fake accent and asked to be called Honorable Gordon Cummins to further sell his upper class status. So
I like him.
he used this newfound persona to embezzle money from others to keep his extravagant lifestyle. In February of 1935, Cummins was fired from his job at the clothing factory because his work performance had suffered from him spending too much time focusing on his fake persona.
And his posh accent.
Yeah. Shortly afterwards, Gordon Cummins joined the Royal Air Force. Cummins was praised by his superiors but loathed by his fellow servicemen. They didn't care for his uppity attitude.
Surprise.
Keep in mind, he's still going with the fact that he comes from an aristocrat background.
My thing is, how can this dude not make it at a clothing, making clothes or whatever, but he can make it in the Air Force?
Well, you just joined the Air Force.
I know, but they're a lot harder on you than the clothing factory.
Well, the problem is he was too busy trying to be somebody he's not. He probably, his work performance lacked. Like, I'm too good for this. But he joined the Royal Air Force, so I mean, this is the real deal. It's not like the scrubs of London here.
Yeah.
But because he acted the way he did, he earned the nickname of the Duke from his fellow servicemen as a joke. They weren't really buying his noble status. So that he became the Duke.
I like it.
Duke.
On December 28th, 1936, Gordon Cummins married Marjorie Stevens. The couple traveled often over the next couple of years as Gordon was relocated to several locations for service. On October 13th of 1941, Gordon Cummins is believed to have murdered Maple Church in London, England. Maple Church was a known prostitute who was known to have engaged in sexual relationships with several servicemen who visited London. Her naked body was found the following day in the wreckage of a bombed house. She had been strangled to death, but no evidence of sexual assault was found. It was proven by a pathologist that a left-handed individual had committed the murder. So that went deep quick.
Yeah.
How did they know that?
Maybe more force on the left side of the neck.
Yes,
Good job.
it is.
Thanks.
That was exactly what it was. 4 days later, on October 17th, 1941, Edith Humphreys was found in her bed at her home. Although she had been beaten badly, had been bludgeoned, had her throat slashed, and even stabbed in the head, she was still alive when she was found.
What?
She would die, however, shortly after arriving at the hospital. So that sucks. You held on that long.
Right.
Yeah.
No evidence of forced entry was found, but jewelry had been stolen. Cummins had committed 2 murders and had gotten away with both of them. Cummins was relocated to Cornwall in southwest England on November 10th, 1941. Here he would gain a new nickname from his fellow peers, the Count. Once again, this was a play on his uppity attitude and demeanor. So he went from the Duke to the Count. That's at what point does this guy think, like, they're just doing this to make fun of me?
Yeah, I know.
Gordon began working at a social club called the Blue Peter Club. Dustin, are you familiar with that?
Blue Peter Club.
Where he would help out tending bar. This didn't last long because he was fired for giving free drinks to his friends in the Royal Air Force. Who's surprised that he had a job and got fired?
Oh, right. Yeah. That's why I can never be a bartender. I would totally give free drinks to everybody.
After he was fired, the owner of the club was robbed and had jewelry stolen from her apartment. Although she was sure it was Gordon Cummins who had robbed her, there was no evidence for the police to arrest him. So he got away with another crime. Even after all this so far, Gordon Cummins still had been a good soldier and had earned enough flight experience to be able to take the Royal Air Force aviation exam. So he's still, even though he's got a hobby of pretending to be rich and famous and killing people, he's still, doing his thing.
Impressive.
On February 8th, 1942, Cummins left his Royal Air Force post in West London and visited his wife for dinner. Just going to sit down and have him a nice little dinner. He borrowed money from her and said that he was going out for a night on the town. That's weird that you would borrow money from your wife, but...
Yeah, and then she'd be fine with, going to go out and
hey,
party.
Let me borrow some pounds. I'm going to go out for a night on the town. And she's like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll stay here and wash dishes. The next day, the body of Evelyn Hamilton, a 41-year-old pharmacist, was found in an air raid shelter. Keep in mind, we are dealing with World War II here. That's why there's air raid shelters, bombings of buildings.
Yep, no, makes sense.
I mean, you're in the middle of a war. There's air raids.
In the middle of a war, and this dude's killing people.
Yeah, stealing, killing.
But he's actually using the war to do it, and I'll get into that. She had been strangled and robbed. Again, pathologists proved a left-handed individual had committed the murder. So they're starting to tie these together. Evelyn Hamilton had been out on the town as well that night, celebrating her last night in town before leaving London for a manager position at a pharmacy in Grimsby. Talk about crappy luck.
Yeah.
Your last night on town and you run into
this guy.
The serial killer.
Yeah.
The serial killer on the loose. So the following day, on February 10th, 1942, the naked body of 34-year-old Evelyn Oatley was found in her home in Soho. Now, keep in mind, this dude is not wasting time. Like, he's killing and then killing again. Like, he's running through them.
Yeah, not taking a break.
Evelyn Oatley had been badly beaten, sexually assaulted, tortured, and killed from a slash to her carotid artery.
Dang.
Ouch.
Her body had been sexually mutilated with a razor, a can opener, and an electric torch.
What?
Like, I'm not really going to dive into a whole lot of details on that. If you want to check it out, this guy went to town on her genitalias.
That's pretty twisted.
With a razor, a can opener, and an electric torch.
That's awful.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Evidence at the scene proved the crime was committed by a left-handed individual. Again. Fingerprints found by police did not match any records in their possession. Evelyn Oatley was a nightclub hostess who had turned to prostitution when World War II had started so she could earn some extra cash. Witnesses told investigators they had seen Evelyn with a man the night before her body had been found. The witnesses said they overheard Evelyn Oatley ask the man what his sexual preferences were. Apparently, his preference was someone he could kill.
Yeah.
On February 11th, 1942, the very next day, Margaret Lowe, a 43-year-old prostitute, was murdered in her home. Again, her body had been sexually tortured, even worse than what Evelyn Oatley had been.
So his thing's to get prostitutes.
Yes.
And then mutilate them.
And mutilate them.
Does that go to where they're, they take longer to, report missing?
Well, I mean, it's not taking them any longer. It's next day stuff.
Yeah.
It's just easier to get them. But they're not all prostitutes. Like the one lady was just out celebrating her last night in town, and he stumbled across her like, let me buy you a drink.
Right.
And kill you dead. So just, crap luck on a couple of these, but a lot of them, prostitutes. A neighbor had seen Lowe with a man entering her home around 1:15 in the morning. She later heard the man leave as he whistled and walked away.
Like just out there whistling.
Hey, I just cut her boobs off and I'm going to walk out and That's a bad individual.
Oh, man.
Margaret Lowe had been beaten, strangled, and tortured. Her killer had used several knives, a razor blade, a candle, and a poker on her body. Like a fire poker.
Oh, man.
Moral of this story is, ladies, if you meet a man, don't take him home on the first night.
Nope.
It might be this guy.
She had been cut open at the abdomen and her internal organs were exposed. Many of these injuries had occurred while Lowe was still alive.
That'd be terrible.
That's bad.
Evidence recovered at the scene left no doubt that the same left-handed killer who was responsible for the death of Evelyn Oatley had also killed Margaret Lowe. The following day, on Thursday, February 12, 1942, Gordon Cummins met a 25-year-old prostitute named Catherine Mulcahy. The two agreed to terms and Gordon paid her ahead of the agreed sexual encounter. So he put a down payment on it.
Is that a thing? People put down payments on that?
Catherine Mulcahy took him to her home and got ready to get frisky. And it was all good until Cummins started to get rough and Catherine knew something wasn't right. Fortunately for her, she fought back and was able to escape and run for help.
Oh, nice.
Cummins gave chase, and when he realized others were watching, he apologized and said he had had too much to drink and that was the problem. And then he took off running away. Upon fleeing, Cummins met up with Doris Wanette, a 32-year-old prostitute who agreed to take him to her home that she shared with her husband.
What?
So he's running from people.
He got away. Yeah, he got away and then...
Maybe found another one.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
He's married.
He's got a need.
So they got a bunch of prostitutes there, I take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, married ones.
You're in the middle of a war where all these soldiers are, and, some of these women's husbands were away.
Need some money.
Some of these women's husbands were away. You know what I'm saying?
I think this is confusing Dustin.
So, yeah, to put it in Dustin terms, there is a lot of sex
I'm just
workers.
saying, like, how you running from the attempted sexual assault of one, and you're just like, I just picture him running down the road, and there's just a bunch of prostitutes just
And then
standing
he just
there.
stops,
and he's
like, "Oh, here we go.
I'll take you."
Hey,
Yeah.
what are you up to?
And she's like, I'll take you home to my husband.
So he meets Doris, the 32-year-old prostitute, to her home that she shared with her husband, in case you missed that part.
Yes.
Doris was married to an older man who managed a hotel and was often away from home. It was when he was away that she dabbled in prostitution in order to, quote, make ends meet.
I would be livid.
Oh, yeah.
Till you come home and the electric shut off. Her body was found the next day by her husband. Her body, naked on the bed with a silk stocking knotted around her neck. She had been mutilated like the others. Her thighs, genitals, breast, and abdomen had been cut up, including a 6.5-inch gash to her vagina.
And
Jeez.
we're talking 3 days in a row now of these type of murders, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the bodies are piling up pretty quick. And it's already been proven that we're dealing with the same
Left-handed,
suspect.
yeah.
So the press, catches wind of all that's going on, connect the dots, and they begin to run stories about a man they called the Blackout Killer. Because all of Cummins' known murders and attempted murders were committed during the city's imposed wartime blackout conditions, imposed in September of 1939. These blackouts were to keep the city dark so that the enemy air raids had trouble identifying their targets at night.
Yep.
They basically, hey, everybody's got to turn their lights off because we don't want them to know where we're at and they'll blow us up. That's the blackouts. So he's using this war to his benefit of killing all these women.
Yeah.
On February 13th, 1942, Gordon Cummins met Margaret Haywood. Although Haywood was married and not a prostitute, the two shared an evening dinner. She may not be a prostitute, but she is not loyal.
Yeah.
Afterwards, they went on a walk where Cummins tried to force himself on her and she fought back. This enraged Gordon Cummins, who wrapped his hands around her throat and began strangling her to death. This would-be murder was interrupted by a young delivery boy who had happened to pass by just in time and scared Cummins off. An 18-year-old delivery boy just happens to stroll by and says, wait a minute, this dude's trying to strangle her. So the problem for Cummins was he accidentally left his Royal Air Force issued gas mask and shoulder bag at the scene.
Oh, no.
Stupid.
This was a huge mistake because the shoulder bag had an identification number inside of it that would lead them back to Gordon Cummins. I mean, everybody has their own ID number inside their satchel.
Every killer gets lazy.
Gordon panics when he realizes it and stops at another pub where he would steal another soldier's bag and gas mask to try and cover it up, but it wouldn't matter. I mean, I don't know how.
I'm sure they got record somewhere, you know?
But I mean, this guy comes back, say his bag's found at this crime, and they go to him like, hey, what's going on? Oh, I've got my bag. No, that belongs to Steven.
Well, and the woman, I mean, she's going to be able to identify who it was, you know?
Right. The investigators quickly tracked the ID number and would question Gordon Cummins the following day at the West End Central Police Station, where he would try his best to make up a lie about where he was, and then having a small recollection of meeting the woman before stumbling off drunk on his own. So he admits, I was out, and man, I got wasted, and yeah, I think I remember her, but I remember leaving.
I just want to know why he had his bag and a gas mask with him. Do they have to carry it all
I'm sure
times?
they had to carry the gas mask with them at all times. Air raids.
I
You
guess
never
we're
know
in the
what's
middle
going to
of a war.
happen. Police held him on charges of causing grievous bodily harm. In the meantime, investigators found a slew of evidence against Cummins that linked him to several of the murder victims. First was the paper trail he had left behind at the Royal Air Force Base he was stationed at. Entries had been changed to try and cover up his tracks, but only brought up more questions. Like could tell that, him leaving base and coming back, he had changed it. It had been written in pencil and he had changed it.
Oh, okay.
So that's like, they're like, well, maybe he wasn't him, but that's kind of iffy.
Right.
When they searched his belongings, that's when they found the most damning evidence. One of those pieces of evidence was a white metal cigarette case engraved with the initials LW that had belonged to Evelyn Oatley, which had a photograph of Oatley's mother inside.
Oh, wow.
That
right there.
This dude's dumb.
Blood on some of his clothing and brick dust also traced him back to the crime. So, yeah, the blood and the brick dust is going to do it. The brick dust, it matched, if you remember, she was found inside the air raid shelter.
Oh, yeah.
Fingerprints were finally matched to him from the crime scenes as well. Now, Catherine McKay and Margaret Haywood put the final nail in the coffin for Cummins. The only two to survive his attacks picked him out of a police lineup.
Good.
On April 24th, 1942, Gordon Cummins went to trial for the murder of Evelyn Oatley, the only case investigators felt they had enough evidence to surely convict him of. On April 28th, 1942, after only 35 minutes of deliberation, Gordon Cummins was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death.
Nice.
Uh-oh.
Hey, one and done. Basically, I mean, you convicted him of one.
35 minutes?
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
Wow.
That's they got him. They got the jury up. They walked out, turned around, walked right back in, like, yeah,
You did it.
And Cummins continued to plead he was innocent and filed an appeal. Like, they're like, dude, we got your fingerprints.
Yeah, what an idiot.
You have belongings to the victims.
Right.
I mean, what are you innocent of here?
Yeah, the other two picked him out.
Somebody set me up. They're like, they picked you out of the lineup. Like, yeah, that dude had his hands around my throat trying to take my life. That's him. It was not me. I was superimposed. That appeal was rejected in early June 1942.
As it should have been.
Yeah.
On June 25th, 1942, keep in mind, hey, you got rejected in early June. On June 25th, 1942, they're like, okay, guess what time it is?
Jeez.
Gordon Cummins was given a glass of brandy to calm his nerves before he was led to the gallows at Wandsworth Prison and hanged.
The gallows.
Wow.
To beat it all, his execution was conducted during a German air raid upon London, making him the only convicted murderer in British criminal history to have been put to death during an air raid.
That's interesting.
He's in the Guinness book. Good job, buddy.
So if you think about it, he used the air raids the entire time to do his murders,
Yeah.
and he ends up getting his life taken
Good.
during the air raids.
He deserves it.
There's still countries that do hangings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Iran is one of them.
Yes.
They just hung that wrestler.
That'll teach him. What do you
Yeah.
learn? I bet he's a couple inches taller today. That's terrible, Dustin.
That
I
was
know
you.
would have said
That wasn't
that,
me.
Dustin.
That wasn't me, that was you. Gordon Cummins' body was buried within the confines of Wandsworth Prison. So he never even made it off the grounds.
Good.
He's still there.
Still there.
That sucks for him.
That's what he gets.
I don't think it sucks for him. I think it's just. Like,
Right.
hey, we killed you, but you still ain't free. But that is the fascinating story of the Blackout Killer,
Nice.
Gordon Cummins.
It was interesting.
It was.
Took us back to World War II.
Yep,
I liked it.
it was good. I like the historical cases.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It's fascinating to me that, although, he got away with killing quite a few, but it just shows you like how things were starting to turn and, like crime scene investigation where they're like, hey, we can tell this guy was left-handed.
Yeah, the forensics.
We can tell, this fingerprint matches this. And I mean, they're starting to come around, but
There was a lot of crazy bastards back then.
yeah.
Right.
A lot.
He was a sick dude. You're gonna cut open some people and chop up on their bits,
Genitals and
Yeah.
their downstairs bits.
downstairs mix up.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awful.
It is. How do you like his last meal? Really, was just a glass of brandy. Like
There you
they
go.
didn't even give him anything. Like, hey, drink this.
Yep.
Then we're gonna stretch your neck.
Stretch your neck.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, good job.
Yep. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, Rob again, coming through. What you got?
Nothing, Rex. Go ahead.
Let's see here. Get on to Facebook if you haven't liked that page yet. Rate, review us on Apple, Podbean. Email us at eviltransgression@gmail.com for any suggestions, feedback. We definitely take it to heart and try to get better. So
Absolutely.
We've been getting a lot of love lately. So,
Yeah. Some
like
hate,
it.
a lot of love.
yeah.
We love them all.
Also, if you're new and you find us, make sure you listen to our newest episodes first. Don't listen to our
versus the
episode.
beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
That might turn you off. And then, so
Hey,
start
the
with
first
these.
couple are rough, but
Yeah.
You grow.
You live and learn.
live and learn. Exactly.
Well, me and Josh do.
Yeah. Dustin might not.
I live.
Yeah, it just stops there.
I live. I live you.
So make sure you do that.
For sure. And one more time, shout out to James, Ashley, Jason, Tiffany, and Abrielle.
Yeah, thanks
Thank you
again.
guys.
And if you want to join them
Tell us.
in the
Tell us.
Patreon,
Tell us how you can do it.
you can click our links below this description and visit our Patreon page. Do you know it, Dustin?
I do.
Let's have it.
Oh, yeah, go
It
for
is
it.
patreon.com www.facebook.com/evil-transgression.
No www before it.
You don't have to put the www on there. Get on your phone. Get on your phone right now. There doesn't have to be a www.
You had to think about it for a minute.
It's like, what's that mean? The World Wide Web. Invented by Abraham Lincoln. But definitely check out our Patreon and join up.
Yep.
But even if you're not on our Patreon, we're happy to have you.
And of course,
Definitely.
We're proud of the Evil Mob. As long as you subscribe and listen to us sound like fools every week, we'll keep doing it.
Yep.
It's fun.
It is fun.
Well, it's a lot of work, but it's fun.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, because,
Josh writes the stories. I mix everything. Dustin, I don't even. What do you do, Dustin?
shows up to record.
Yeah.
I'm actually the reason that this thing's successful, because if not, you would have two monotone turds talking all the time.
Oh, you mean two male voices and then your feminine voice adds to it?
You need this.
And this Evil Mob is what I have to deal with weekly
Constantly
on the show. But I love it. It's fun. Well, thanks. We thank all of you in the Evil Mob for listening every week. Giving us a reason to come back and argue with Dustin every week. So,
with that,
you good? Conscience clear?
Yep, I'm good.
I think I am too.
Awesome.
I do want to point out, Tiffany, Tiffany Manning, who was our patron, one of our patrons this week.
Right.
She drives, I think it's like an hour to take her daughter to and from. So I want to give a shout out to the daughter as well, because she's probably forced to listen to us in the car
during that hour drive. Yeah.
Sorry.
But that's a pretty awesome story. She reached out to us, sent us an email. So shout out to Tiffany's daughter. We're not sure your name, but
Thank you.
Thanks for being forced to listen to us. But all that aside, you good?
Yep.
We're good.
All right, Evil Mob. Until next time.
See ya.
See ya.
Peace.